It is early Friday afternoon, March 11, 2011. Across Japan's northeastern coast, people are finishing out their work week. Trains are running on schedule, and schools are preparing for dismissal in the cold winter air. Japan is the most heavily fortified nation on Earth against seismic activity. Their skyscrapers rest on massive shock absorbers, and an advanced early warning network of seismometers stands ready to halt high-speed trains seconds before the ground shakes. At 14:46 local time, that system triggered. 72 kilometers offshore, the Pacific Plate, which had been steadily subducting beneath the Okhotsk microplate, finally snapped. The resulting magnitude 9.0 earthquake tore along a 500-kilometer fault line. The violent shaking lasted for an agonizing 6 minutes, displacing the ocean floor, shifting the Japanese landmass by over 2 meters to the east, and physically tilting the Earth on its axis. When the tremors finally ceased, the engineering had largely held. Most structures remained intact, and the population survived. A temporary sense of relief settled over the coastal cities. The nation had just endured the most powerful earthquake in its recorded history. But the most robust architectural defenses ever built could not withstand the oceanic displacement it had just caused. At 14:49, 3 minutes after the quake, the highest level of tsunami warning began blaring from coastal loudspeakers. Residents were told they had maybe 8 to 10 minutes to seek high ground. This visualization maps the epicenter's proximity to the coast, tracking the massive volume of displaced ocean water. Thrust upward by the shifting tectonic plates, a wall of water was now racing toward the shoreline at 700 kilometers per hour. At 15:18, the ocean made landfall along the Iwate Prefecture coastline. The surge reached heights of up to 130 feet, easily cresting coastal tree lines and crushing the structures below with millions of tons of force. The water did not stop at the shoreline. Pressing up to 10 kilometers inland, the surge picked up entire houses, vehicles, and heavy fishing boats, depositing them deep inside leveled residential zones. Over 100 designated evacuation sites were simply washed away. Artificial barriers completely failed. In Miyagi Prefecture, the dark, debris-filled floodwaters overtopped the defenses of Sendai Airport, completely marooning the facility and burying the runways. The seawalls built to protect these communities were based on historical models of previous tsunamis. By relying on the past to predict the future, officials had fatally underestimated the ocean's capacity for violence. At 15:41, the tsunami surge reached the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The facility was protected by a seawall designed to handle a 5.7-meter wave. The water that struck the plant was 15 meters high. This cross-section highlights the seawall's height versus the incoming wave, revealing a critical flaw. Emergency generators were housed in the lowest level. The basements flooded, causing a complete station blackout. Without power, cooling pumps failed, and reactor cores rapidly heated up, glowing red. As the heat climbed, hydrogen gas accumulated inside the upper refueling halls. Over the next few days, massive explosions tore through the facility, forcefully ejecting the blast panels and destroying the reactor buildings. The earthquake-tin tsunami severed the plant's final safety nets, stripping away its ability to cool the fuel. What began as a natural disaster was now accelerating into a man-made nuclear crisis. As evening approached, the sun set over a devastated Tōhoku region. The destruction of power grids and infrastructure plunged millions of survivors into absolute darkness. A cruel shift in weather compounded the disaster. A winter storm rolled across the coast, dropping temperatures to 0 degrees Celsius. Survivors, scrambled onto rooftops or pinned beneath the wreckage, were exposed to freezing snow, which blanketed the leveled towns and trapped them. The only light cutting through the pitch black came from massive chemical and debris fires. Severed gas lines and massive ruptured oil tanks ignited, burning uncontrollably across the surface of the freezing, dark floodwaters. The first night after the earthquake became a brutal fight against the elements. Survivors were isolated in freezing temperatures, battling hypothermia while waiting for a rescue that the ruined roads would delay for days. In the darkness of that first weekend, the invisible threat of radioactive fallout forced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of residents from the Fukushima perimeter, pulling displaced families out into the cold. When the water finally receded, the true human cost emerged. More than 19,000 people were dead or missing, with the elderly accounting for nearly 2/3 of the casualties. The receding ocean left behind 25 million tons of debris. The total economic damage surpassed $360 billion, making it the most expensive natural disaster in recorded history. March 11th forced Japan to rethink its relationship with the Earth. It prompted massive upgrades to coastal defenses, a national pivot away from nuclear power, and a permanent day of remembrance for those lost. The events of 3.11 stand as a humbling reminder of nature's scale. When human engineering is pushed past its absolute limit, survival ultimately relies on human resilience